back. There was some commotion at the Tory conference yesterday when a Conservative politician was kicked out for heckling during the Home Secretary's speech. London Assembly Chair Andrew Boff accused Suella Braverman of homophobia and transphobia after she described gender ideology as poison, something he said was a trash comment. He was swiftly pulled out of the auditorium by security staff. Joining
Trash about gender ideology is making our Conservative Party look transphobic and homophobic. This is not what the Conservative Party is about.
Well, joining me now is that man himself, Andrew Boff, Chair of the London Assembly, summarily ejected from the Tory conference hall yesterday. And he's also joined by the columnist and political activist Tim Montgomery. Let's talk to Andrew Boff first, because he's the man of the moment. What did you exactly call out? It was quite hard to make it out when we kept running and rerunning the tape. What disruptive heckle were you guilty of, sir?
Well, I think I said that gender ideology doesn't exist, and that the comments are a disgrace because that very term is a sort of gateway word to actually saying we don't like trans people.
Give an example for those of us who are not maybe au fait with the sort of common parlance, what that means about the ideology, why you objected to it. What do you think Suella Braverman was trying to say, and what was it about that you objected to?
Well, I did some research work into Poland a little while ago, a couple of years back, and there they have problems with LGBT people. The government has problems in some political parties there. And what those political parties did is they adopted this, they warned people about LGBT ideology and how it was sweeping through the schools and threatening children and all the rest of it. And when I quizzed them about what does LGBT ideology actually mean, of course, they don't know what it means. It's just they're building up a bogeyman. And that's the same with gender ideology as well. You're building up a bogeyman about, all the children being forced to adopt other genders and all the rest of it. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. And yet, we're a sensible, well-established Conservative Party, and we're the most successful Conservative party in the world, I believe. And yet we have to resort to this nasty rabble-rousing.
And we all heard Suella Braverman's speech made in Washington, where she talked about gay people, and I think I'm correct in quoting this, gaming the system so that they could claim that they were being persecuted for being gay. Is that what she was saying?
Yeah, well, the reason people are gaming the system is because her department is so awful that it's not processing the asylum applications quickly enough. So there are a large number of people who are trying it out because they know that the Home Office system is broken. So that's where she should be spending her efforts. And yes, people come to this country and some do game the system. The majority, when they get to be assessed, the vast majority have actually valid claims for asylum. So, this problem is down to her.
And tell me what you think of your treatment. We saw film there of you being sort of quite forcefully escorted out of the venue. Did you feel that you should have been? Did you feel that you were treated wrongly, incorrectly?
I don't think I should have been. I chair the London Assembly, so every now and then it's my duty to ask people to leave if they're being disruptive in the audience. I wasn't really being disruptive. It was a heckle. I always allow heckles, the occasional heckles, when I'm chairing the London Assembly, because we live in a democracy. Free speech is actually quite important. And if occasionally somebody chunters, as that's what people called me. They said it wasn't much of a heckle, it was more of a chunter. And if somebody does that, well, that's fine. You tolerate that. If I stood up and started kicking over the chairs and disrupted the entire event, that might be something that was worthy of my treatment, but that wasn't the case, was it?
Now, let's bring Tim Montgomery into this. Tim, what's your perspective on what went on?
Well, look, Andrew is an old friend, and I remember a few pub chats, and Andrew, I don't know whether you do, with a mutual friend where we've disagreed about a great deal. We're in the same party, but I think we're at opposite ends of the party in lots of respects. But I don't agree with what Andrew thinks about the Home Secretary. but it really was outrageous that he was ejected yesterday. As he says, he was heckling. He wasn't being disruptive. And if the Conservative Party can't be a party of free speech and free expression amongst like-minded sort of allies in a broad church, then we're failing. So it wasn't my responsibility, but I'd like to apologise to Andrew on behalf of the Conservative Party, and I hope he gets a full apology in due course. It really shouldn't have happened.
And Tim, what do you make of what the Home Secretary said about an LGBT ideology, the phrase that upset Andrew so significantly that he felt he had to yell something out in objection?
Well, look, I think if an adult wants to change their gender, then that should obviously be their choice, and society should respect and enable that. I think what the worry a lot of Conservatives have, and I think this is something that the Home Secretary is rightly also worried about, is that children who, we all, we know what kids go through. They're subject to all sorts of pressures in their development, and then until they're an adult, that choice of potentially having puberty blocking medicine or whatever, that shouldn't be possible. We should allow this only to happen when people are mature enough to absolutely know that this is a change that they want to make. And so I think the Home Secretary is right. I think the Prime Minister was right in his speech today to say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. And we should be able to say that without contradiction. But if in due course someone wants to change their gender as an adult, then we should accept it. And I don't think anything that the Home Secretary said, and this is where I disagree with Andrew, was transphobic in any way.
Let's bring Andrew back in. I mean, obviously, Andrew, I haven't yet asked you to respond to what Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, said today about a man is a man and a woman is a woman. But what did you make of that?
This is another example. You see, Rishi made some very profound statements today, very important long-term decisions to get the economy back working and to contribute to growth, investment in the north and all the rest of it. And then he sullied the whole lot by picking up one of these statements that people come out with about man is a man and man is a woman is one. The thing is, the party is making statements without reference to LGBT plus Conservatives. We are an integral part of the Conservative Party. And all these statements that have been made about gender ideology, all this woke rubbish that's been in the culture wars, all of that has been taken without any reference whatsoever to the constituted body in the Conservative Party that actually deals with these issues. They've got to start talking to people. These statements that both Suella Braverman and the Prime Minister made are made from a place of ignorance. Well, I want them to be less ignorant, and I want them to start getting on the phone and meeting with LGBT people and trans people. You know, the last time we had this kind of action, we ended up this kind of feeding frenzy on a minority. We ended up with Section 28, which David Cameron was forced to apologise for many years later. And the narrative is the same. You know, back in when they were talking about Section 28, apparently people like me, gay people like me, and my husband, who's a teacher, we were a threat to children, apparently. And that was the narrative that went round. And they ended up with Section 28, which was the most appalling Conservative parties doing it again. But it chose them in.
Unfortunately, we've got a slight problem with the sound, Andrew, because you keep freezing in frame. So I'll give Tim Montgomery the final word on this. Rishi's speech today, Suella's speech yesterday, are you worried that they might be considered homophobic or transphobic? Or do you think that what they're really doing is simply, I don't know, reflecting the views of a large proportion of the country?
Well, it's certainly reflecting a large views of the public, Vanessa. But contrary to what Andrew says, I think also, you know, it's not that the LGBTQ plus community is united in the sort of position that Andrew's taking either. Particularly, there's a lot of lesbians who really disagree. They think they're almost being erased out of the LGBTQ sort of equation, if you like, by this sort of erasure of female identity. And so, look, I think it's perfectly proper and perfectly possible for the Prime Minister to say, as he did today, a man is a man and a woman is a woman. If, in due course, an adult person wants to change their gender and they're given help by medical experts, that's okay too. But let's not pretend that there aren't consequences for women of allowing people who, been men in the past to compete in sports events, go into women's prisons, whatever. We need to protect women in this equation as well. There aren't just people changing their gender we have to consider. We have to consider the rights of women as well, and I think that's what the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister were rightly concerned about.